Absolutely.
Is Taylor coming?
Well,
Yes, he
we're
RSVP'd.
worried about absences, but now that doesn't matter. So
But that was like 4 days ago and a holiday ago.
for the so, but now they're excusing. Who likes to say? So, I know, right?
Get out of town.
I know.
Okay, then.
So I don't know what we'll do. It might change everything. I might get home from here and he's decided. I don't know. Really?
Going out of Memphis or Jackson?
Should we give 208 more time?
You gotta go to Dallas.
I mean, Jeff is part of it.
I've heard of people that are flying to Vegas and bring a car and drive.
He's what? Okay.
I see about that, you know.
I'm trying to stay away from them.
Just hang on 1 second.
Airport.
Well, then you're Christmas.
I'm not gonna do all that stuff.
Yeah. Just a wrong neighbor.
It's just Christmas is wrong, yeah.
Well, people were
There's no sightseeing.
Yep. Your mood.
We're coming back Wednesday, if we get a plane. Our flight's to come back Wednesday. So we would have Tuesday to hang out. But I think Sunday morning.
That's sorry. That's what it's all.
Or Saturday night. So, Clara Hartwell's flight with his girlfriend.
All right.
So he didn't.
Calling this to order, please. We have an agenda in front of us. Note the agenda was revised from the earlier agenda to put the case 488 in front because I will be recusing myself from 487. So after this first case, I will exit and pass chair to Miss Amanda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed. We had minutes provided to us from the December 1 meeting. If there are no comments or amendments to that, is there a motion to approve those minutes, please?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Staff report, anything from staff?
No staff report today.
Okay,
Yeah, Happy New Year. Go Bears.
damn right. Case number 488, COA requested by Snyder Development LLC, Greg Snyder, for new construction at 208 South Lamar Boulevard. Take it away, please.
Great. So the applicant requests approval from the commission on a new building to be located at 208 South Lamar Boulevard. This plan was heard as a complimentary review by this commission at our previous meeting in December. The previously existing building on the site was demolished in 2020. A new building plan was approved by this commission in May of 2021. After that approval, the applicant requested a stormwater variance from the Planning Commission, which was appealed to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen in March of 2022, was ultimately denied, and so the building was not constructed, and all necessary approvals for the site have expired. The proposed plan is substantially the same as what was approved by the commission in 2021. The use is slightly different with a residential second floor rather than the previously proposed commercial space, although the ground floor remains commercial. In 2021, the approval was conditioned that several items would come before the agenda for final approval. It was 6 items, and those were all addressed in the letter provided with the current case file by the applicant. The building was previously approved under the recommendations of our former design guidelines. They've been updated since that hearing, and the updated guidelines for new construction were included with your report. According to the Oxford Historic District Design Guidelines, new historic commercial buildings should reflect the traditional commercial development pattern of the courthouse square while remaining clearly of their time. Compatibility is evaluated through site placement, scale, massing, rhythm, materials, and architectural features rather than through direct imitation of historic buildings. The proposed building is consistent with the guidelines recommendations that new commercial construction maintain the historic street wall, align with adjacent buildings, and orient primary entrances toward the public street. The building's 3-story height is compatible with the scale of nearby historic commercial structures, especially given that the 3rd floor is recessed, reducing the perceived height and mass when viewed from South Lamar Boulevard, which is consistent with the guidelines recommendation to mitigate the visual impact of taller buildings through step backs and articulation. The guidelines also recommend using a hyphen or connector when designing in addition to a historic building. While this is an entirely separate building and not in addition to the neighboring Square Books building, the use of the glass connector in between the Square Books building and this new building gives the same effect. Let's see, I'm not going to read everything, but while balconies are generally not characteristic features of historic commercial buildings on the square, the guidelines do allow flexibility for new construction when such elements are compatible with adjacent buildings and don't overwhelm the primary facade. In this case, staff considers them appropriate given the presence of a prominent 2nd floor balcony on the neighboring building. The materials used in this proposal, brick, stucco, cast stone, and aluminum storefront, are consistent with materials traditionally found in the Courthouse Square. A couple of items to note: the applicant will be required to obtain a revocable license from the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for the proposed balconies. The previously approved floor area ratio variance from the Planning Commission remains in place, and the applicant will need a special exception from the Planning Commission to install a proposed screen wall around the HVAC rather than a taller parapet wall. So staff is recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness and finds that the proposed new building meets the recommendations of the design guidelines. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and then Corey is here, I believe, to speak on behalf of the project. Would you like to say anything? Sure.
You did a great job out of
Thanks. I covered it.
that.
And Corey provided a letter responding to comments that he's heard from us, complimentary and past as well. So thank you for that, sort of point by point. That was great. So anything from commission for the applicant or staff?
The railing in the rendering is old, right? It's- The one shown in the 2D elevations is correct.
And it's just horizontal now?
It's vertical.
It's all vertical pickets, I'm sorry, okay.
Just like a simple picket.
Yeah.
Design.
And I wanted to say, just in case it matters to Planning Commission when it gets there, my preference is definitely a screen wall rather than taller parapets. I think that's the right move, because it's back, and I would rather see that than a big eyebrow over the windows.
Move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Good to go. All right. I will be recusing myself and passing it to Amanda. As hard as that is for me to do.
Pass the gavel.
You want it?
You want to do a chair for you?
Okay, now we'll hear case 487.
Kate. Okay. Also a returning case from last month. 1006 Jefferson Avenue is located just west of the intersection of Jefferson Avenue and North 11th Street. The site currently houses a single-family structure, which is currently in use as a salon, the LaRousse Salon, and is adjacent to the city parking garage. The applicant seeks approval to demolish the existing structure on the site and to build a new mixed-use building. This item was considered for complimentary review at the October meeting of the commission, so it's been a couple months since it was discussed here. This property was considered by the commission many times in 2010 through 2019, though there are no existing active approvals related to the property as they have all expired. The most recent approval in 2019 would have allowed the applicant to relocate the existing building and to build a new parking lot on the site. So we're going to talk through the demolition first and then the design of the new building. So the existing building is dated at circa 1895 in our Historic Resources Inventory Survey. It's listed as non-contributing in the Courthouse Square Historic District because it's been highly altered since construction. We don't know the full history of the structure, wasn't able to find any archival photos, but it's clear that the building has had several additions over the years, which now surround the main original form, and we saw the applicant put together an exhibit showing each of those additions to the main building. The original portion of the building is a Queen Anne style gable and wing cottage and dates to the original construction of the building. The porch is a later addition, which features tapered columns and posts reminiscent of a craftsman era addition, so that would be like 1900s to 1930s, whereas the original building dates to the late 1800s. Other additions include that front bay window and extensive side and rear additions. According to section 5427 of the Municipal Code, in considering any application for the demolition of a landmark or a resource within a preservation district, the following shall be considered. The commission shall consider the individual architectural, cultural, and/or historical significance of the resource. The commission shall consider the importance or contribution of the resource to the architectural character of the district. And the commission shall consider the difficulty or impossibility of reproducing the resource because of its texture, design, or material. So I'm going to move on to the design of the new building. The applicant proposes a new 3-story, 4 in some areas with the included basement, which is below grade, building with a rooftop lobby and terrace. The proposed height is 35 feet 9 inches to the top of the roof, with the top of the elevator penthouse at 53 feet 9 inches. We just went through the considerations for commercial structures and the design guidelines with the previous case, but they recommend that new commercial buildings are evaluated to be compatible in scale, massing, and form of existing buildings on the block. Recommendations include to design the height of new buildings to be consistent with other buildings on the street. The height of new buildings should be within 10% more or less of the average height of buildings on the street. The architectural features of the new building should be aligned with those of nearby historic buildings, including floor-to-ceiling heights, cornice alignment, window and door heights, and foundations. Material recommendations are to use materials and exterior finishes that complement the existing historic buildings, such as brick. Staff finds the proposal is compatible with many of the principles for new construction in the guidelines. The materials, which include cast stone, brick, aluminum storefront, and clad windows, are compatible with both the historic buildings and new construction buildings in the district. The pedestrian-oriented storefront with single-door entries that include transoms and sidelights is compatible with the existing storefronts on the Courthouse Square. The overall massing, which is a simple block with regular rhythms of windows and doors and projecting awnings, which delineate the ground floor commercial use and the upper floor residential use, is appropriate in the context of the district. The flat roof with parapet is also consistent with the district. The proposed height of the building is in conflict with the recommendations of the guidelines and should be a point of discussion for this commission. The lot is on the border of the Courthouse Square Historic District and as such is in a more mixed area when it comes to building type. I'm sure you've all taken a drive down the street, but it features both one-story residential and commercial structures across the street, including the Isom House and a directly neighboring one-story residential style building that's used commercially. However, other direct neighbors include the city parking garage and the recently approved project across the street, which is also 3 stories, and the 1000 Jefferson Avenue condo building down the street. The new building would tip the balance of this portion of the street with 2 one-story buildings and between 2 3-story buildings further into the larger commercial scale of the square, which contrasts the more residential neighboring district directly across the street. Of concern to staff is the proposed rooftop area, and that the inclusion of the terrace and associated structure actually creates 4 stories of programmable space on the site. The applicant plans to seek a variance for floor area ratio, which is the amount of usable square footage as compared to the size of the lot, and building height for the quantity of floors, and possibly building height in feet from the Planning Commission for this building. So the commission must consider the demolition of the existing house on the site and its integrity and determine if that demolition is appropriate. And then should the commission vote to demolish the building, staff finds that the new building is compatible in style and materiality, but suggests that the applicant could refine the proposal to better meet the recommendations related to scale and height. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and the applicant is here as well.
Remind me where the parking would be underneath.
There,
Yes.
yes,
There's some part.
there's some, yeah. Let me pull up the. Maybe we could put the floor plan up that has the parking. There you can see the spaces underneath.
And I just have it on my phone, and so the page is breaking. But is it about half the size of the parking garage per se? It looks.
The building
Because
itself?
the building itself.
I'm gonna let the applicant come and discuss the plans.
Okay.
All right, so we'll hear from Mr. Williams first about the demolition, and then Mr. Hall.
Yes, I was about to ask that question. With regard to the specific question, sorry, it was about.
Compared to the parking garage.
Yes,
the
we have,
size.
exactly. It's a little less than half, I believe. And in elevation, it's the same height as the parking levels of the deck. The apex at the parking deck is about the same height as the elevator tower. But in our building, the elevator tower is set significantly back from the street. So looking at the actual elevations, I think if you can please switch to the elevation. Thank you. The one on the top right, it looks a lot higher in flat elevation than it would be perceived because the elevator towers that are on the back and then the pergola would be set so far back. So you can see that on the side elevation. The front elevation is toward the right side of that side elevation. And so you can see how far it is set back in the building.
Just to clarify, to be able to see those parapets, the elevator parapets, you'd have to be on the other side of the Jefferson to be able to see that visual.
Yes, I think if you look at the three-dimensional views, yes. So again, the bottom right one, it appears that you can see the parapet of the elevator tower, but because it's adjacent to the garage, you actually wouldn't even see that if you were, say, standing at Oxford Floral or the adjacent bank, because the garage would be blocking that view.
What's the space between the garage and this building?
It's the drive aisle, I believe.
Is it just a driveway? I mean, what kind of feet are we talking about?
Parking, just driveway and other parking, so it's probably 60 feet.
Okay.
That's a guess, just thinking about the way it's laid out.
You kind of have a scaled image, don't you, of the front street line? That's where it gives you a street view.
Yes, sir. I don't have it printed out. I think it's after those drawings.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you.
And so you can see again how the main portion of the height is very much aligned with the garage, the main portion of the parking deck.
This might be silly. Are the trees coming down? Or will they be saved?
A lot of them are gonna have to come down because we moved it all the way to the front. There's a lot of root systems in there, so it looks like it's sit there and die.
I was just curious.
And the fire department doesn't have access to it.
Y'all pan over a little bit so we can see the whole front of the building, if you don't mind. Thank you.
And again, that rectangle is exhibiting what we discussed earlier on the previous elevation of the main portion of the building.
Yeah, not the top of the elevator.
Correct, no. Which we've worked to modulate and decrease the visual sense of the scale with the balconies on the corners that sort of give that that empty space that helps to sort of not have a strong, heavy presence on the street, but have some modulation.
How far is it set back from the street?
The plan previous to that drawing will show it. It is set back the same distance as the approved building on the other side of the street that was approved by the neighborhood commission.
Which is almost to the sidewalk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the height of this proposed building the same as the building that's being built across the street?
The heights of the two buildings are, yes, that's
Okay.
excluding the elevator and the lobby.
So if I'm looking east to west, I'm gonna see basically the same height
Correct.
on each side of the street. Okay? Thank you.
Did we want to discuss the potential, like the removal of the existing building at all?
Yeah, I think going through a thorough,
Okay.
you had it's very well documented in here, but I think going over it would be nice.
I will note for the record too, I neglected to say at the end of my report that we did receive a letter regarding the potential of moving the structure, which was provided to you guys earlier today. Also that the appropriate noticing of adjoining and confronting property owners was done by the applicant, and we have not received any feedback related to that in our office.
So that's a letter from Mr. Teisman.
Yeah.
Is he here today? To support his letter?
A representative from our client who spoke to him is here.
Okay. But Mr. Teisman's not here, correct? Okay, thank you.
Did you want to hear from Katie?
She's certainly, if she wants to speak, yeah. I don't have any specific questions, I just want to know if he was here to support his letter.
He isn't. He did send a list of references, people that he's moved for. He's done a good bit of work in the Middle Tennessee area. But his phone number and contact information is on the letter.
Thank you.
Do you see your name?
Thank
you.
Thank you.
On the, if I may ask, on the construction aspect of clearing the lot, did I hear that the trees have to go? I mean, basically, that's what we're saying.
Yes, sir. Some of those trees on the very corners, a couple big magnolias and a big oak tree,
Yeah.
they're already starting to die due to some installation of some utilities that were put in by the city that's necessary to supply electricity to all the new development right there. So
Can you
they're,
put that picture back up where you see the, yeah, and zoom in? So both sides of that will be gone, both sides
yeah,
of the trees.
there's some of those trees on the right that actually are across the property line, so they won't be touched.
I hate to see the trees go.
I agree. But since they're already dying, it was frivolous to try and change the entire building layout to try to save something that was already on its way out. That was our speculation. Excuse me.
Well, from a historic standpoint, again, I'll get off of it, but trees give integrity to the page. We're trying to keep character of what's being built, and I mean, I understand if you lose them, you gotta let them go, you gotta let them go, but.
And there was some issues with the fire department, safety, and being able to access the building as well.
I've driven the street probably 8-10 times since this application came up. And if you go east to west, the first thing you see down that street are those trees. It basically is a canopy over Jefferson Avenue. It creates, for lack of better terms, some depth, perception, whiteness, whatever you want to call it, Oxford. When you take that out and put a block there, I'm really concerned that you're fixing to really commercialize the street. That's like 1 of 5 residential buildings, non-commercial buildings that are still there from that street. I understand it's been added on to several times.
It's a commercial, and it's been added on to 8 times.
Right. So was the Isom House, which is the original
Understand?
dwelling in the county. It was originally a cabin, and it's been added on to several times. So that's really not persuasive to me, just because it's been added on. I'm concerned that you're gonna have 2 blocks on each side of the street. They're same height. They're effectively gonna turn that whole street into a commercial area. What you got on one side is auction floor, the other side you got is ice and blocks. Those are my concerns, especially when I think the criteria under the code section was, I think you've already read them into the record. We shall consider the individual architectural, cultural, and historic significance of the resource. Well,
What number is that?
that's 54-27 of the municipal code.
Yeah, so, the historical, resource that was done by the city has already claimed that it's a non-conforming structure. And with the,
Non-contributing, you mean?
yeah, what did I say? I'm sorry.
Non-conforming.
Right. And, with its altered state so many times, it's lost its historical significance, in our opinion. And, as far as cultural significance, we're not aware of it.
Well, the resource as a whole contributes to the architecture of that street. You would agree with me with that?
I agree to some extent. Now, this is in the Courthouse Square district.
Right.
So the Courthouse Square district has several mixed-use buildings that are tall, and I think we're following into the Courthouse Square
Would you
layout.
agree with me that if you eradicate the trees and the building itself, it changes the character of the street?
Any new construction is going to change the street, just like the large parking garage did.
Let's see. Commission shall consider the importance or contribution of the resource to the architectural character of the district. We just talked about its effect, eradication of it on that particular street. And the commission shall consider the difficulty or the possibility of reproducing the resource because of its texture, design, material, and detail. So we're fixing to take that out and put a new construction that equals what's already being built on the other side.
Right.
Now, I'm going through all this because I don't think we're the last word on this particular COA.
Okay.
But I want whoever comes behind us to know what our thoughts are, at least my thoughts. These other fine folks can speak for themselves.
So in my response to that, we're replacing it. This building's been, again, heavily altered so many times, there's not anything left of the original structure that would be able to be preserved. I mean, as we'll talk about the letter in a minute and what was described by the professional house mover, we contend that the existence or removal of this building will have no effect on the district as a whole if you look at the entire courthouse district.
Well, we're looking at this street right now.
Okay,
We're looking at this.
we've got to be able to divide the two districts. We've already transitioned into the district with the building across the street that was already approved. So now, if you look down that street, as far as changing, you're going to change that one building, but it's going to be more in line with the majority of what's being built along that street.
What's on the other side of that house, going down that hill, going east to west?
You've got the little barber shop that is in pretty poor shape, and then you've got the Jefferson.
Right. So you've got, and one other little small dwelling, right?
Just right beside this house, that's correct.
Right. So, I mean, you're not altering, you're further altering that particular street by taking that building out.
That can't be denied. Any new construction is an alteration.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jeff was saying, and when we consider this building, we are looking at it as the district as the whole, which is the downtown commercial district. Many of the things that we really appreciate about the square is that it does have an urban wall, and this building would be contributing to an urban wall on that street. It is a prominent street and many people use it, but again, many of the buildings on it are already 2 stories or more. And as Jeff said, the building that is under construction across the street was approved by the neighborhood district, and they didn't have very much pushback, if any at all, and approved it pretty quickly as contributing to that part of the neighborhood.
And that was in an empty lot, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes. I did also want to add, I know that previously it was mentioned about this particular building being, having nostalgic or parts of people's memories. For what it's worth, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, and maybe this is a little too much insider information, but the current occupant, the salon will be moving across the street into the new building we just mentioned, which will leave this building that we're talking about empty. And as an aside, having nothing to do with the, like, whether or not it's removed or not for this project, as an architect, the fact that it's already been under so many renovations, having it renovated for a new potential tenant would be nigh impossible.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to follow up on the number of alterations, LaRousse has been in that building for 15 years, since 2010. They've had to do 12 renovations on the inside just to keep the thriving business moving. And to continue to make those renovations has become not very feasible. And we talk about the letter that was given, I think the gentleman that came to inspect crawled in the house, and you know, he was shocked on how are we going to be able to save this if we have to relocate it.
And you say it's been operating for there for 15 years?
LaRousse has been in there since 2010.
But we're not talking about relocating it, though. I think
No,
in
we're
this aspect, it's
asking
talking
for
about
demolition,
if it was remain, it could be saved and improved. It's not a total loss of structure.
So the problem with that is if someone come in and said, hey, we want this building and we want to renovate it to our, whatever it is that we're going to put in here. Structurally is going to be very expensive, first of all, and maybe even unable to do it at all, based on the information that we found after crawling in front of the building.
I think also just to add to that point, I think that, again, the 2019 approval was to have it moved, but looking into it in these times, if you remember the display where the blue section was the existing building that has historical value, of course, all of those other colors would have to be removed and demolished before that existing blue structure was removed. And at that point, it would no longer have a roof, and all of the cladding would be removed to remove the structure. And long story short, that ends up being a financial burden to any nonprofit organization that might actually be willing to take it and actually want it for any purpose. It actually becomes more of a burden than one could imagine a free building being.
Any other questions? I would say, any questions from the audience, but I don't believe there is anyone. Anybody? So now we would need a motion.
Do you guys want to make, so in the event that there is a motion on the demolition, or as Andy mentioned earlier, that this is perhaps not the last stop for this COA, do you guys feel it would be worthy to also discuss the new design before we take a vote on the demolition? And if you believe, should the building be demolished, is it appropriate?
I would also point out, I think there's another option for has, which is to grant the request for demolition and then take the order for consideration of the COA.
recording this
Yeah.
and streaming it, and introduce yourself.
Sure. Walt Davis on behalf of the development. I'm specifically referring to an option that I believe is available to you under section 54-27(1)(E)(5), which is to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition without requiring a COA for new construction yet. While the actual demolition may not take place, it could be granted if there are concerns over the new design, but that there's an otherwise.
That would require landscaping.
That's the next section on.
Yeah, new building or landscaping, isn't it?
That's a different section. That's a following section. I'm talking about commercially zoned property, which this is, not commercially zoned. So I'm just pointing out that option.
Thank you.
Would y'all like to discuss the building
Yeah.
while we're here right now? Or would you like to see if there's a motion on demolition?
I know y'all obviously may not have any questions, but I did want to have one note. In the images of the elevations and the 3D perspectives, I just wanted to point out that we are not proposing a building that has brick that is cartoon red. The brick and the cast stone that we are proposing are more a softer, more natural, neutral color. We do have a sample to provide, but also you can sort of put in mind the Graduate as more of a softer and weathered look on the brick. So not the cartoon red, that's a computer program.
Thank goodness. Schoolhouse red brick.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about the building that you haven't already relayed from the prior meeting or this meeting?
Yes, please. Can we please turn to A200 on the three-dimensional elevations? Oh, yes, thank you. Back to the, yes, thank you. Yes, so it is a 3-story with a 4-story basement. It does have parking which includes 2 spots for each unit. It does not include parking for the retail, but it does have approximately 3 times more retail space than the current structure does. So this would be a very low impact sort of commercial use, which would be either office or mercantile use. It is not a building that is capable in any way to be restaurant or bar. So again, with the roughly 3 times the amount of square footage, it could be used all as one or subdivided. But again, we're working to get more retail on that side of town. This is very much part of the downtown square. And so this would offer a place to really work together in synergy with Oxford Floral and LaRousse, which would be across the street. So people parking at the garage wouldn't necessarily have to travel, quite a bit before reaching shopping destinations. The rooftop terrace, which I know is maybe somewhat of a concern, is specifically designed as a amenity for resident use only. It would not be rented out to anyone else, and this is in an effort to offer something commiserate with guests of the Graduate, who they have the rooftop access. But again, there wouldn't be a bar of any sort. It would be privately accessed by the residents. Again, the residential parking is taken care of, so that will not be a burden on the city parking. And these are all obviously luxury condominiums, again, adding to the tax base. On the front elevation, as we discussed, we did work to create an identity for this building, but also soften its presence on the front of the street by having those balconies set back and creating some, positive and negative space and some relief along that front facade. Again, when you look at the elevations, it can be hard to understand that really, when you're walking down the street, what you feel is like you're walking down a 3-story building. So again, the bottom floor is a little higher to offer those commercial heights, and that is how it gets to be the same height as the parking garage. But in design, our thoughts is that it will be very harmonious, walking past one and the other, or driving past.
Hi, I'm Brent Swain, project architect at Develop Design Studio. I just wanted to mention one thing. I think we mentioned it before, but I wanted to sort of, I guess, underscore it as part of my thinking when I was first looking at this building in context. And my concern was the fact that, it's neighbored by the parking garage. And I felt like that there was kind of a disjointed nature between the parking garage, and then as you move beyond the parking garage into the other structures, I felt like that there was kind of like a suddenness to that transition. And I wanted to figure out a way that we could try to break up that front facade in such a way that it takes the mass or the stereotomic massing of the parking garage and then brings it down to a more human scale as you move past it into the street. And then other projects, as they move towards the Corey Alger project, in between ours and that Corey Alger project, other projects could be maybe different, and that would be okay. I'm not trying to create a single look for this entire street, but I was thinking, could there be a softening of the parking garage look as we move into the street towards a more, kind of residential scale in some ways? And that's why if you look at I don't know if we can pull the front elevation up again, but if you look at the front elevation facade, you can really see, I think the center portion has that kind of massing that takes inspiration from the parking garage, and then the balconies alongside it in the corners take a more residential feel, and kind of it breaks up that, I just want to mention that was sort of my knee-jerk impulse when I was looking at the parking garage and then the other buildings that are currently there and the other buildings that may come in the future. And I was trying to leave an opening for other projects to have a little bit more freedom than what they would have if we either, I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. And if you have any more questions for me about that logic, let me know.
How much further is the parking garage set back than this?
I think it's a matter of feet. Jeff, do you remember? How much further is the parking garage set back compared to this building?
Not 100% sure, it's somewhere between 8.
Do we have that on the
It may not be quite.
I can kind of, that's about what I roughed from looking at one of these drawings. Yeah.
One more. Thank you.
I'm trying to see what page this is.
And is the building going property line to property, is it filling up every part of the property?
It does. There's a pretty, I'm Brent Swain again. There's a pretty fair amount of
That one
Yeah.
you can tell.
That one right there, perfect, thank you.
So the parking space is what, 9 feet wide? So that's rough.
Yeah, you can see there, by the time you allow space for the fire department to get to the sides of the building, there's, it does cut pretty well. There's a pretty good setback. So that's part of what's happening there.
One of my issues is that this may be the same height as the parking garage, but it's going to present a lot bigger than the parking garage because of how much closer to the street it is. I just have issues with that. I'm not going to lie. get the argument about the building on the other side, but to me, that almost makes it worse instead of helping, right? Because now you're just constricting the middle of this corridor.
And I know we don't worry about this, but I'm just kind of curious in my thought, how long will this take to construct, and would any lane closures have to happen, or, I mean, I know that's not something we worry about, right?
It's not something that you worry about, but I mean, there is a staging and a construction plan that's associated with this that gets vetted with multiple departments, and so something that we will consider.
You would
the city will
consider later on.
at a later
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Or prior to the issuance of the permit.
Yeah.
So are these concerns, for instance, how far it is close to the street, are these things that can be addressed later with the city, or is this still something having to do with historic?
I think that's something that they have to answer. I mean, there are times that we have material issues that come up that they relegate staff's authority from a placement standpoint, or, you know, I mean, I think some of the comments that I'm hearing is a little bit more substantial. Substantial.
So, just to follow up what you said, is there a number you have in mind? Would you like to see it line up? Or, I mean, we need a little guidance, so if we have to come back, you got it like you want.
That's the least favorite question, right? Look.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking out parking, so we're not backing out.
No.
Parking, so
Look,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm sensitive to all of this. Believe me, I truly understand. I understand being on that side of it too, and I get the numbers. I know how all that works, but I'm telling you, it's a concern of mine. I don't know what the right answer is. I wouldn't even hazard a guess. I don't know that it's necessarily a lot for me, right? But I appreciate. I'm sure y'all have thought about this, probably to the point of exhausting yourselves. And I appreciate the work that you put into it, but it's at the end of the day, look, we can talk about the stuff we've done to the front until we're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, it's a building, right? And it's coming that close to the street. It doesn't matter what little changes you're making to the front of it that kind of go towards ameliorating that in my mind. So to me, it's pretty simple, right? Like I think moving it back a bit would help me tremendously with getting through with this. And as to what the right answer is in terms of moving it back, I truly do not know. I'm a lawyer, I just look at these things, right? That is well outside of my pay grade. So I'm sorry. I'm sure that's not very helpful from your end, but that genuinely is kind of how I feel about it. I think everything else is great.
I agree. I mean, it is right up on
You
the
could
street.
put a bar up on the roof as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I think we need
exactly.
more of that.
Walt Davis, again, I know y'all see these kinds of issues all the time. Everything's a trade-off, but the whole idea, one of the main benefits I thought about this and being close to the street, is you remove all that parking along the street. That has been a huge issue before this board and every other board in front of the city about people pulling in and out of that section of the road. And so there's been a trend of putting these buildings in this district up on the street because you're putting the parking in the back. That's been a sort of a consistent thing that I have seen, maybe not in front of this particular board, but other construction.
Yeah.
And so that to me is a huge benefit of having it move forward. Now, if there is, so you don't know how much it is, but if that's something that we can address, we're happy to address that.
But it doesn't have to be parking. It can be green space or a buffer.
Yeah. Don't misunderstand me, Walt.
Like
I think
parking
parking
garage.
should be gone under any circumstance, period.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
It's just so yeah. I like a barrier.
So other than that issue, what other things that are the primary concerns y'all see?
I wasn't lying, Walt, when I said I'm
No,
good.
I hear you.
I'm more or
I hear
less
you.
good.
But that sounds like something we can address.
Well, I also like a barrier between the parking garage and the building. The trees or something, so it's not just parking garage, parking lot, huge condo complex, barber shop.
You gotta have something fire trucks can.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, but I mean, can the fire trucks get through now?
Well, they have to, right now they have to pull into the driveway by the parking lot.
It's actually there are two issues there. It is the fire truck, but it is also how you lay out a parking lot, like a parking garage. Like, the spacing is regimented. We can't shrink that. No one's going to be driving minis in this car, so in this parking deck. So, like, that footprint is how we maximize the site. And again, I do think, I mean, we all mourn the loss of trees. We had to have one cut down recently, and everyone knows I was sad for a week. But I think, again, you won't see the lack of trees from the street because of the angles and the proximity of the buildings create just, again, an urban corridor.
When I'm driving east to west on Jefferson, right now I see trees and a canopy thereafter, okay? When I drive, if you put that building up against the road, I'm gonna see a block, and I'm gonna see another block on this side. So that is a change. That's a significant change.
And it may be those some very same trees have to be cut regardless of whatever the decision.
Maybe.
Because they're not.
Maybe
That's our understanding of the condition of trees. That's what Jeff told us.
all of them,
Sir?
all of them.
Everything on this board, those two big those three specific trees. Three very specific trees.
Simplistically put, I think that what I'm dealing with is the fact, being a merchant on the square and hearing the excitement of what the consumer says when he comes into our city, that he loves the square because it has the integrity, it's old, but it's classy and it's used. What I'm afraid of is that we just don't want to become anywhere USA. And I'm hearing what he's saying. When you drive down the street, even if they're bad trees, you're seeing a canopy, you get a feel for it. It's just not the building. So my two concerns would be this getting a setback on the building, possibly, whatever that means, and I don't know. And trying to either salvage as many of those trees as we can, or maybe having room for a replanting program. I mean, you know.
Any other concerns that we can discuss?
On the elevations, where the pergola on the third floor, was it pushed back further from the?
Then when we had the complimentary review,
I think so.
I believe we pushed it back a little bit, yes. We did decrease the size of the elevator lobby, so that is probably what you're noticing. On the sheet A102, you see that between the two stair towers and the elevator lobby is an enlarged hallway, whereas previously it was a room large enough for a gathering. So that's been reduced, and in so doing, the pergola has been moved back.
Can you go to that side elevation? Right there. So on the third floor, the pergola is shifted back about how much from the original?
Right, about how much from originally, like 20 feet, 10 feet?
I'm sure it's more than 80 or 10 feet. It's definitely original application. The whole bay back.
From one window bay back to where it is. Right, so you can see the storefront at the top that's extending above that first window bay. And I don't know if there's a roof plan to show the footprint. In that one, and you can see the pergola that's coming almost all the way to the front. Right, so I think on the far left, the two stair towers with the elevator, and then in the center area is the former elevator lobby, and then the two pergolas that are branching out on either side of that. So we reduced it to that hallway, pulled it all back, and I think we reduced it by a bay, a little bit more than a bay of the pergola. And if it still seems like we need to reduce further, we could bring it down another bay to have a much smaller U, and that would again bring that elevation even further back from the street.
I mean, I think that's what we're hearing, that it would need to be pushed back before there was any sort of approval.
That's still the old drawings, for what it's worth. I don't know if we need to look at the new ones, but we were discussing potentially moving the on the new plan, moving the correct. That's the old plan, and the new plan will show what we have moved back, but then we were suggesting, we were discussing whether or not we move the pergola back even further. Correct, reduce the size. No, the plan, the sheet A102, please. And so you can see the bays aren't exactly even, they're lining up to something else, but we could remove that top bay potentially.
Does that do anything with how close it is to the street?
Yes, so if you look at,
Just the pergola, not the building overall.
right, just the pergola,
Reduces the visibility of the pergola, same fashion, rooftop structure.
I don't know that anybody has an issue with
Yeah, I don't think anybody
the
has an issue
pergola
with
as
that.
is.
Yeah, I
It's
think it was
just,
a good move from the previous
Yeah,
to now. I was just
if you
verifying.
were building this right now, I think the pergola looks totally fine. I have no issue with it whatsoever. It's the building itself that is a problem for me.
So I think it's going to be possible to move the front facade of the building back a little bit relative to the street. I think we'll need to work with planning to make sure that we're meeting the intent of the zoning ordinance when we do that, and also consider it so it's a little bit of a balancing act. And I think we can work on that.
I agree with Brent. We can definitely work to massage this building and to reduce the feeling of the canyon that I hear most of you saying is disagreeable, and potentially have some sort of plaza, as Ben suggested. And I guess that brings us back to, are we able to move forward with designing this with the understanding that the existing building can be removed?
I would think that we would need to approve a new design. I mean, if it was pushed back, it'd have to come back before us, yeah.
Can we approve the demolition without approving the design?
No. Well,
Ordinarily, the commission does.
Well, do we need
So-
to, do we need to, see if there's a motion for
We
demolition?
need to see if there's a motion to approve demolition. Or to deny, if there'd be a motion to deny demolition.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Is there a motion on the demolition?
Is there a motion on the table to approve demolition?
In light of the discussions thus far, with their consideration, simply tabling both requests until, so we can work on this, I understand from Jeff, maximum we're allowed to sit back in front is 15 feet. That would be the most we could do to comply with other requirements, but that's not something we have to put pencil and paper on yet.
Yeah, that's what the ordinance says. I mean, I think the commission often shows deference to this commission who oversees design and has the design guidelines. And so that's not to say that variances aren't granted. So, well, the maximum according to the ordinance, the standard is 0 to 15 feet. It's not to say that it could be more or less.
And what you want this table, is that what you got?
Actually, it's back to the question of whether y'all would consider tabling it so we can address what would make the most sense as far as setting the building back.
Well,
Procedurally,
what would that do for our vote for demolition or not?
We table both of
Y'all
them.
have
Your
not,
table.
y'all have not chosen to vote on that yet, although you may like to do so. You could, my legal position would be that you're allowed to vote on demolition without approving the COA for new construction. We would have to return for the COA on the new construction based on redesign. That would be my request, although it's certainly within your prerogative to table both.
Are you requesting that they table it?
I'm requesting the table the consideration of a building, the COA for the building, so we redesign. And if
But
that-
not for the demolition?
If, I'm saying they could do either, I'm requesting they approve the demolition, but they could table both.
if we table both, do you have to renotice?
We would.
That's what I was thinking. You want to table?
What was your question, Andy?
Question was, if we table them, do we then have to republish in the paper, renotice the meetings?
And they would.
And they would, an answer, which is,
Well, I think you gotta really table both of them. I mean, I think what happens if you approve the demolition and you don't go forward with the second segment of it?
We'd have to come back with the new design you do.
Yeah. You can't do.
my understanding of the ordinance change is that when you approve the demolition, you must approve the new building. Is that not correct?
You would vote on the demolition, and then if the motion to, let's say you do approve the demolition, but the plans are not satisfactory, you don't vote to approve the new construction plans, then that vote is null, the demolition vote.
So Kate, are you suggesting that we would have to come back and redo the vote? in
You would
that
vote on the
circumstance?
demolition again.
And they would have to renotice it again
Yeah.
regardless? Okay.
But yeah.
Madam Chairman, I move that we table both the COA request for demolition as well as the new building.
That's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry, that was just one. Sorry. It's very exciting for me.